welcome to First Crack. What an extraordinary day of football. Two huge upsets, really, in both of the elimination finals as the Hawks hang on against the GWS Giants at NG Stadium, and tonight, just extraordinary, thrilling finish. It's the Gold Coast Suns hanging on by 1 point against the Fremantle Dockers in the West. So many big moments late in that game. We're going to dissect them all shortly with these two fine gentlemen. David King, good evening to you, and Lee Montagna. An extraordinary night of footy, wasn't it, really?
It was an amazing day. It was finals footy at its best. For the Hawks to get headed and come back and find a way to win, and then the footy gods do exist for the Gold Coast Suns with David Swallow being the hero in the end. It was an unbelievable day of footy. I couldn't have been more happy with the games that we watched today.
Let's have a look at the finals graphic here. The road to premiership glory. We look ahead to next weekend on the Friday night. It's Adelaide against Hawthorn, and the Crows only just got the chocolates about a month ago in that game. And the Q clash, I think we saw it. I think Matt Rowell's mum laid it out clearly. Louise, the rivalry there is brewing. So
I'd nearly play her. I'd put her in the team, I reckon. I'd give her a spot on a half-back flank. I think she's got a bit of go in her.
She got the three votes in the rooms, that's for sure. Just your quick thoughts on the games next weekend. Which way would you be leaning?
Oh, they're on an unbelievable ride now. The Suns they're just on this wave. I mean, the way they've entered the finals has been just a real story of courage, I think, to go and get Damien Hardwick, to see this journey through, to stay strong as a football club, to put it out there. We're here to play finals. We've got to grow up. Yep. We've got to take these opportunities. They didn't rest anyone for the second halves of Essendon game. They said, no, we're rolling. Steamroll through this first final. I think it's just amazing what he's been able to do and gather this foot. Who knows what they bring next week? They're just going to play free-flowing footy that, as you said in the rooms, had signs everywhere. They've just got one speed. They want to just destroy. I love it.
I know we always probably tend to be more positive, obviously, on the teams that win and quite negative on the losers. But just having looked at the last 4 years, 5 of the last 8 teams that lost in the qualifying final lost the following week, went out in straight sets. 5 of the last 8. So if that trend continues, at least one of the Adelaide or Brisbane would get rolled, and maybe both of them. And you're not going to write off the Hawks or Gold Coast with the form and the confidence they have right now.
Going to be a massive couple of semi-finals. Let's celebrate the Suns 1 point victors in their first final. Kingy and Dave Swallow was right in the thick of it.
Oh, he was. I think that we were riding the obituary as he did that just there. We thought he's in real strife. He's going to cost them the game.
He's cost them the game at that point.
Simple as that. We're thinking, oh no, is this a final series lost on sentiment? Was the thought. Because this was an unbelievable play, Suns.
And crucial from a big picture perspective is what 2018, when Tom Lynch and Stephen May walked out on this football club, there were stories about, right, do they shut the doors on this football club, you know, and 2025, first final, not only that, they win it. And Matt Rowell made a big decision on his future mid-year to stay at the Suns, and he'd be feeling pretty good about that tonight. But him and Noah Anderson, as you mentioned, Kingy, were enormous tonight.
Yeah, Kingy just touched on it. They had to be Herculean tonight to win this game, and they were. It's incredible that they continued to deliver. It's not really incredible because they've done it week in, week out, but to go over and really, it was 2 of them fighting 3. I thought the midfield battle tonight, King, it was an absolute heavyweight battle. Like Young, Sarong and Brayshaw were awesome for Fremantle, and Rowell and Anderson had to go up against them from start to finish, and they were just brilliant. We just saw a stat from the guys in the previous game. It's only the 3rd pairing of midfielders in the last 10 years to have 30-plus disposals and 10-plus score involvements. Both of those boys did that. It was an incredible performance, and well done to them. And Jared Witts, I should say, he was sensational as well, helping them out in the ruck.
Yeah, and it has to be said, Justin Longmuir just gave them carte blanche. Go head-to-head with the boys, see how you go. See how you go. 34 and 32. Chris Scott doesn't do that. We're going to get to my first crack later with coaching matters. It matters. You gave this team a heartbeat, and they turned it into an on-the-road victory that not many saw coming, except for Damien Hardwick and his troops, and God love them. The way they play is with an edge and a brutality that was just too tough for Fremantle. It really was. All bar about, 8 minutes of footy, they were just ginormous in the middle of the ground.
Get to the Dockers side of things in a second, but the Suns at the contest, it was pivotal in tonight's victory, Ken.
Yeah, forward 50. So forward 50 versus the opposition's defensive 50. They just continued to win one-on-ones or ball on the ground, secondary opportunities. And it wasn't until Pearce took control of the airwaves late in that probably the last 15 minutes that they really looked to have any ascendancy, the Dockers behind the ball. But this just happened all night. I mean, they end up winning +4. +4 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can finish in the positive, given the outnumber, and it's easier to defend than attack. Simple as that. It's harder to create a score than to save one. But they just kept turning up, kept winning ground ball. It was different players, but Humphrey was just terrific. He took all of his moments. King did some things that were critical, that were really important. But in the end, it was the group. It was a shared experience of those half a dozen guys that just had their moments and they took them. So they didn't necessarily have to have 70 inside 50s to get it done because they kept winning contests and scoring.
Ben Long was big in that too, Joey. When Isaac Rankin left the Gold Coast Football Club, the pick they got for him, they took Bailey Humphrey. He's pretty significant tonight.
He was tonight, wasn't he? He looked like a junior Dusty Martin that Damien Hardwick had at his disposal at Richmond, and his second quarter in particular was brilliant. He kicked the 3 goals, just got that power and explosiveness. We saw this one coming out of contest, just doing things that there are only a handful of players in the competition that can do, and he's still only scratching the surface really of what he's capable of. But his first ever final, he stood up. We thought he would be. He's that type of player, and in this, in a tight, low-scoring game, it was a separating factor what he was able to produce.
He can finish inside 450, that's for sure. We're going to go now to the Fremantle coach, Justin Longmuir. I believe he's with the champion, Nat Fyfe, in his press conference.
Nat, how are you? Yeah, not great, Craig. A little bit numb. Thought we dug in towards the end of that game, and I think we all got pretty hopeful towards the end, and then to have it snatched away like that, it's yet another example of what footy can do to you. And congratulations to Gold Coast.
You've lived through so many highs and lows. To go out with that sort of result in that sort of a way, like how devastating?
I just think that's fitting. It's just the game does not give up its rewards very easily, and there's a lot more times you finish a season heartbroken than the opposite. The game's been very generous to me. I'm grateful for that, and to be able to get back and actually be involved in this game this year, I'm really thankful to JL and to Joe Bridie and Garlo for having the belief to just allow me a little bit of rope to keep that dream alive. So I'm really grateful that I actually got the opportunity to play in another final again.
You've given it everything you've got. Does that leave you with a sense of satisfaction knowing that, yeah, you tried everything effectively?
I think so, yeah. I think I came to a point last year where I felt like I'd turned every stone and given absolutely anything I could, and where the story went from there was out of my hands, and hopefully I get some closure and peace of mind that this part of my journey with Fremantle, I did everything I could, and as I said, I finished disappointed in some ways because of the way this season went, but those memories will eventually turn into fond ones for what's been an amazing experience.
That's obviously, this is the end for you, but you're one of the best for this club. What's your message to these younger players who have got to bounce back from this and go again?
Well, it's pretty early at this stage, Bridget, to give sort of a message, but I think, it's no use selling false hope at this stage, but if you look at the profile of what we've been able to do over the last 2 seasons, the consistency of our performances, I think we've only lost 3 games in the last 13 or 14. We've learned to win on the road. We've given ourselves every chance of evolving the way you'd like a list to, and there'd be a lot of teams saying that about themselves, but I think we genuinely have got the calibre of players in the right profile to have 5 or 6 bites at winning a premiership, and from the West Coast is increasingly difficult because of the travel, but hopefully there's some hope we can take away from what we've done the last 2 seasons.
What about your final words out there tonight? I mean, the crowd has been very loving towards you, as you'd expect, but when you took that big mark, that was a nice moment.
That was nice. I'm not sure how that stuck, to be honest. But, I felt like I was able to thank the crowd a couple of weeks ago, and I've done it in my own little way a couple of times over the last few years. So, again, was really grateful for the support tonight.
You walk away content, or is there still that little bit of something missing because you didn't get the team success on top of the individual success?
Look, I don't think so. I don't think I needed, as I said earlier, I don't think I needed anything else from the game. We all want to win premierships, I do have some contentness that I'd tried everything and gave absolutely everything I could to the club and evolved myself along the way, and I think that's, in some ways maybe my journey was more important for me not to win than to win.
Now, how close did you come from not playing, again this year? You obviously had the injury battles, and you mentioned you had a bit of a long road to, but the dream is still there for you. Was there a point in the season where you really thought this could be it?
Multiple, yeah. when I injured myself before coming on the ground, that was probably a big one. Did the hamstring down at Peel. Had a knee injury in the pre-season, rolled my ankle on Tuesday and hardly got up for this game. So the game tried many different times to tell me that the end of the road was near. And so I walk away knowing that this is definitely the right time.
How bad was that rolled ankle and how did you do it?
It was just at the end of training on Tuesday. It wasn't too bad, but when you're at my age and what scar tissue, a small ankle can turn into a pretty major thing, but it wasn't too bad.
When you looked up and saw that it was the other guy who was retiring with the footy in his hands, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was somewhat fitting. He's been an amazing warrior for them. We started our journey together playing State 18s footy, and an important moment for him and their footy club. And as heartbreaking as it was for us, that's kind of what footy does. It gives them a special moment.
And what's next in your journey in just terms of general life?
It's a great question, and if I figure that out, I'll let you know. But it's a period of rest for now. Thanks, guys.
So much.
Thanks for all your support as well.
That's it.
Well, JL, just what are the initial emotions after that?
Yeah, it's devastating. And I think whenever you finish the season, there's no pleasant way to go out unless you win it. But the way that game played out, the fact that Nat's retiring and Sonny's retiring, and just probably adds a lot of extra emotion. Because you stand up in front of the whole staff and group after that performance and that ending with those two greats retiring. It's really hard to put into words. So the players are hurting, but the game's a game. But then it was bigger than that after the game because of the calibre of people that that are leaving the club at the end of the year.
And it was an amazing comeback by the team. How did you analyse, first of all, the comeback and then those frantic final few minutes?
Well, said to the players after the game, didn't dig too deep, but the second quarter we just fell away with our footy. Our role play, our contest fell away, and concede 7 goals in a quarter. It's not us, and especially those last 4 goals, they came really quickly off the back of losing our way in the contest and our shape, which was really disappointing. But like we've done all year, we've embraced every challenge. We've fought our way back, and we did that again tonight. And if you review the last 2 minutes of the game, Ewan takes a great contested mark, and then JT probably should play in front of Andrews, and he takes a contested mark as well. So you lose 2 contests. I don't think it was structure or it's not executing. Is you lose 2 contests, and then Cox goes to lay a good tackle and the ball gets knocked out and he holds on too long. We didn't do a lot wrong. So it's disappointing. Like I said at the start, there's no joyous way to finish the season. Change rooms is always like that. Once you finish, whether you don't make finals or whenever you finish up in finals, but there's just something a little bit extra in that, given who we're losing.
Since the bye, you've been fighting back from deficits a lot and winning those games, but you've also been conceding 4 or 5 goals in quarters. Did the weaknesses from those moments end up catching you out tonight? Was that the reason that you lost the game if we didn't fix those moments?
Well, you could say that. Yeah, I've probably alluded to that because we wouldn't want to put ourselves in that position, but we're in front with 3 minutes to go. So we've shown great maturity in those moments to be able to execute, and there's a couple of things we could fix up in terms of roles and the way we'd like to set the ground up in those final 2.5 minutes, but they won a couple of contests. So it's a long way to answer, but I don't think that was the case tonight.
Justin, have you spoken to the players yet? And what's your sort of message to them, given I suppose it's not just about tonight, it's about the whole season?
Yeah, well, we'll review the season with the players. Like at the end of every year, there's a lot of change. like I said at the start, it was a hard one to talk about with the players because of the calibre of people we're losing. With Nat and Sonny are going to leave a big hole at our club. We're going to lose leadership. And it was trying to find the balance between thanking them for their service and their dedication to our club and what they've given to our club. Nat sat there just then and talked about, his body breaking down over the last, probably 3, 4, 5 years, really. But, there's someone who's given a lot to our footy club. So, as much as you want to stand in front of the players and talk about their game and the X's and O's, there's a little bit more to it than that. So I probably went down that track a little bit more in thanking them and thanking those two for giving what they've given to our club.
It's a disappointed Justin Longmuir, Fremantle coach. You tipped him for the flag at the start of the year, King. Clearly underachieved in your eyes this year, Freo.
Oh, they'd be shattered with tonight. I mean, this was a game they should have won. I mean, there wasn't many people tipping them to win this one. They'd worked hard to get back into the game after a really poor first half. I know you can break it down to contest by contest, but they play in small margin games. They live in this space, and sometimes you roll snake eyes. So it's as simple as that.
They certainly did tonight. Righto, Joey, it is time for your first crack.
Yeah, well, we just heard from Justin Longmuir, and I'm taking a look at the 4 losing teams this weekend because a few years ago, Simon Goodwin made a statement in a press conference that has stuck with me, and it still holds up every final series. And it's your vulnerabilities as a team. Your weakness gets exposed in finals, and that's why we always preach the team's profile and what shape they're in and try and inform the viewers where a side is at, because if you do have vulnerabilities, they do get exposed, and it was exactly the case in the 4 finals for the losers this weekend, because if we start with Adelaide, I'd been speaking about it for the last 6 weeks leading into finals, that they had really been struggling to move the footy. It was something that probably hadn't resonated with a lot of people until late in the season, and on the weekend, they couldn't get the ball from that defensive mid-zone, which Kingy's spoken about is so important, into their inside 50. They were bottom 6 coming into the season, and it was their worst performance of the year in this game. They only scored 5 times from the back half against Collingwood. We'll deep dive into the games a little bit later, but that was a vulnerability where they couldn't move the footy, and in a big game, a high-pressure game, they just didn't have the tools to be able to do it, and I'll take a deep dive in that one later. Then you think about the Brisbane Lions, and when you look at their profile, for a team that have a lot of positives, and in previous years it's been a strength, this year their efficiency inside 50 had been an issue. They ranked 12th in the competition coming into the finals, and against Geelong, they struggled to score. That number has been boosted because they got 3 down the field, free kicks that actually increased that. But when you think about their own entries, they really struggled. They only took 6 marks inside 50 in that game. So it caught up with them. We know they've got some injuries and some players down on form, but that was a big one. Then you look at the Giants today. And what about them? Well, they ranked 9th in the competition for points against, the lowest of any of the finals teams. And they conceded 107 points today, their 3rd worst return for the season. And they found out that, you've got to defend to win premierships, and we'll touch on that a bit later. But it has been something, they play in shootout games. When they kick over 100 points this year, they're 14 and zip. When they don't, they're 2 and 8. They love shootouts. It wasn't quite that for them today, and they got exposed. And then we just saw Fremantle, and there's been a lot of talk about their ability to score enough points. And while they were okay, they were 9th, going into the finals. That's the worst of all the finals teams. They had 59 entries but could only manage 79 points. They couldn't put the score on the board when they had their opportunities and when they needed to, and left themselves vulnerable. So once again, where you were vulnerable, you get found out, and that was the case this weekend.
Weaknesses exposed on the big stage. Righto, Kingy, what's your first crack?
Well, mine's pretty simple, and it's coaching matters. And it's not just game day. It's not just today. It's what you do in the weeks leading up, the months leading up, the planning, the foresight, the vision. And I think the template is Geelong, because they just don't allow the opposition to do as they please. And we're going to talk about Anderson and Rowell having 70 touches between them. But there was no way Geelong were going to allow Rayner and McCluggage to beat them. They say, OK, if you can beat us with Ashcroft, the pair of the Ashcrofts, and you can beat us with Bailey going crazy or a wild card performance from someone else, no worries. We'll live with that, and we can adjust in game. McCluggage has 1 kick at half time because he's just absolutely clamped by Mullen. And O'Connor and Rayner had a great battle. Now, he got a couple of goals that were freebies from the umpiring department, and he had a few moments. But all in all, the mindset of this group is we're not going to get beaten by what we know going in. So I think it's brilliant coaching. The resting of Dangerfield through the year, Martin through the year, Stengel and Smith and these guys, so to make sure that they've got their best 23 to choose from come the first week of the finals. What an unbelievable asset that is. The roles of players has been shifted over the last month of footy. They've all played everywhere. So if you're planning to play against the Cats, you've got no idea where those magnets are going to fall. And in the end, they set it up for Holmes and Bailey Smith to outrun those midfielders I just spoke about before, because one, you haven't planned for that, or two, you can't cope with what the opposition are putting to you. So they take control in the coach's box. What was the plan for Dempsey? Were you ready with what he was going to do? Did you have the correct matchup early that didn't allow Geelong the luxuries to get off to a flyer? Was Matty Nicks ready for Darcy Moore to take absolute control behind the footy? And when he started to do that, what did you do? Coaching matters. You've got to do something about that. If you had your time again, would you let him take 9 intercept marks? Would you let him have 13 intercepts for the day? The gambles on injured players coming back in, Hogan, Stringer, Kelly, was it too many? Was it just right? Should you have taken less? Should you have taken... Was it Weddle and Butler? Not all of them are busts. This is coaching. This is why you get the big dollars. So at selection, there are risks taken. The management of De Goey, to get him to be able to perform the way he is, you have to say huge tick. So all these things, all these decisions are nothing really to do with how you want to play, because ultimately the system is embedded over 1, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how long those coaches have been there and where they're at in the cycle. Does it have preliminary final integrity or not? Is it ready to stand up against the best? Because Fremantle's tonight is not.
Yep.
Because they can't shift and cover those midfielders that we're talking about. They don't have someone that can go and lock away Bailey Humphrey, who's out of control. So in the end, it's your system and it's your beliefs that we pick apart. Now, we do that from the cheap seats. Absolutely we do. But we do it off the level of what the best are doing. And the best right now is Chris Scott. So if you're not at that level, you're getting beaten. Okay, so that's the challenge for the competition, not just for the individual coaches, for the full club, to get the right people in, to ensure that you're playing a finals system. Are GWS Giants really playing a finals football brand that's going to take them to the promised land, or is it great to watch, can beat anyone any given day, can smack the awful teams? Does it really beat the best when it matters and when it counts? And maybe this is why we look at Damien Hardwick and say, he's doing it again. Because this model works. We're looking at Chris Scott all the time. We're looking at Chris Fagan all the time. So we look at these guys that do it for a reason. So what are the rest learning from these guys? And if you're not learning from them with some of the things, that's 20% of the stuff we've gone through there. There's so much more. If your system doesn't work in big games, it's no good.
Are they the team to beat now, the Cats?
Of course they are. Most people would have them top of the pops, but it's not just for one singular reason.
It's a season-long plan.
It's the season long. It's everything. All roads lead to preliminary final. And you can get beaten in a prelim. You can get beaten in a one-off game, no problem. But they give themselves every chance every year because they make the right decision season long.
Cats and Pies are booked. Home MCG preliminary finals. It's going to be a massive September. Righto, fellas, it's time for my first crack, and that is about the man who could unlock the Charlie Curnow trade. Here comes the sun, and that man is Jed Walter, because until now, the Blues have been a hard no on the Curnow trade. We've heard from Graham Wright, Rob Priestley, we've heard from Michael Voss. It's been a hard no. This is the man who could move the needle on a Charlie Curnow trade. And you won't hear him say this publicly the next week or so, but I understand that the Blues like this man as someone at 195 centimetres could be their powerhouse forward and their key cornerstone for the next decade. They know they've got Jagger Smith coming in, he's a pick 3. This is the other man who is a pick 3 and has shown a bit over his first 2 seasons, but he's been likened to Josh Kennedy, of course, the Carlton great, and there's some synergy in the story there. Remember, Josh Kennedy left Carlton after his second season, 2007, become a West Coast great. Potentially, they can land this man, and as I understand it, there is some interest in him. So Curnow was clear. He wants out, and he's got Geelong and Sydney as his preferred landing spots. I don't think you can rule out the Cats in this chase yet either. But if it has to be the Suns, I mean, if you're Damien Hardwick, you just spoke to him, can the Gold Coast Suns say no to Charlie Curnow? Because they've got Ben King and Charlie Curnow potentially in premiership mode next season. Is this something the Suns should be interested in?
I think yes. I think their window is the next 3 years. They can win a premiership, and I think that Charlie Curnow will help them do that. So I think, for them, but that means they're going to have to give up, a young, prodigious talent. We don't know how good he's going to be. So does that mean if Carlton are open to that, is your indications then that Carlton are maybe changing their mindset in regards to where they're at as a team and they might want to rebuild a little bit more than trying to top up and surround the stars they've got now? Is that where you think they are starting to think?
I think there is definitely more of a look to the future. Have you got Carlton winning the premiership next year?
Well,
Do you think they're a top 8 team? There's no doubt that they're looking at some of their younger talent, and it's a broader brush.
I've got the Suns nearly winning the premiership next year if they get Kerner.
Yep.
I mean, this is a signature. Damien Hardwick would do that tonight.
Yep.
If you get the paperwork to him right now, that's a lock and load and go as hard as you can for next season.
Do you like Walter, from what you've seen?
Not as much as Kerner.
Yep.
In the short or long term.
There's potential there. There's still no guarantee. He's going to be a very good player, but how good is he going to be? That's still a long way to go.
It's going to be a big trade period, no doubt about that. I'll tell you what will be big. It's going to be AFL 360, followed by On the Couch on Monday night. And on 360, it is the great Lee Matthews joining Jared and Gary from 6:30 Monday night.
Monday night on Fox Footy, a special finals edition of AFL 360. Jared Waitley and Gary Lyon, joined by the one and only Lethal Lee Matthews. Live from 6:30, right here on Fox Footy.
How good does that feel and what are the emotions like at the moment?
Yeah, it's great. It's look, it's always good to beat a great side. Freo, well coached, well drilled. Hostile environment, always tough to come over, and one of the toughest trips in modern AFL footy, and to come away with a 1-point victory when we got headed. I thought it speaks volumes of the playing group and how far the club has come. It's been 15 years of hard work, and we've managed to make the finals first and foremost, but to have our first victory in a final is incredibly rewarding. We get the great challenge of trying to beat Brisbane on their home patch, so probably the biggest game in Queensland history, I would imagine, so looking forward to it.
When you saw Swallow get that free kick, did you just think this is meant to be?
We're just hoping he made the distance, to be honest. We weren't too sure, but look, it was sort of a fairy tale moment, wasn't it? He's such a... Well, he is Gold Coast. He uses the fabric of the place, and what he's given our football club, it was just reward, I think. And for him to kick the winning point that got his club over the line, someone that he's served since he's been 17 years of age, 15 years here, given so much, and I think Witter summed it up best when he sort of said, Dave stayed when others moved on, and that was fine, but Dave committed and stayed the course, so it was a great reward for him.
When was the decision of bringing him into the squad?
Yeah, I spoke to Dave. He actually lives about 5 doors down from me, so I went there the first time, and him and Georgia were out for dinner, sort of thing. I thought, oh God, this is going to be awkward. And I think it may have been one of his sister or cousin or something was there, so I had to come back later, and I just thought it was important that he played. He's, as I said, he is Gold Coast. What he's given this football club. We didn't give him a game, but he earned the game. Not only from his form thus far, but what he's given this club over, I think, the 15 years previous. So it was important that he played.
Is he in a game against Brisbane?
Yeah, well, we'll have selection. God, can I just enjoy this one, please? We'll get the selection later on the week, so we'll work our way through that. Yeah, it was a great story.
Great story. He spoke to the players, addressed the players pre-match. Are you able to share a little bit of what he shared with them?
I just he spoke to the midfield group, which was very cool, and we sort of spoke about how the guys have done the heavy lifting throughout the year, and he wanted to jump on the back of that and enjoy the experience, and it was very, very good. Sean Grigg got in to speak to the guys, and yeah, it was quite a touching sort of moment for him to be out in front of the group and speak to them, and they idolise him. He's everything that everyone wants to be. Both on and off the field, he's an incredible person.
In a final, you're up 26 points. Fremantle come home, who have been coming home strong the last few weeks here, playing in the first clubs ever final. No one really would have said any need if you had to win. The maturity to be able to get back in front, win the ball out of the middle. Against Port a couple of weeks ago, you got beaten in the middle. So to be able to turn that around in that last couple of minutes, you must be happy with that maturity.
Yeah, it was. And we speak about it all the time. Losses are gifts in a way, and you learn your lessons along the way. And, you know, Fremantle, they always, you know, come back hard. You know, their last quarters have been very good, and we just couldn't quite get some things right, especially around clearance, but we managed to rectify that at the end. But, you know, we've spoken about it all year. This is a side that digs in. You know, grit we speak about often with our group and connection, and the phrase we sort of come up with, you know, it's a Suns side that never gives in and refuses to be beaten, and they dug deep, you know. Like you said, we could have quite easily just rolled over, but that's not what this group's about, and it's really important that the players understand the fabric of what they've created, that identity piece. You know, Noah and his leadership group do a wonderful job of aspirational type leadership about getting the guys to understand and believe how good they can be. You know, we were 1-8 previously, now we're 1-6 chance of winning. Something pretty special.
What will it do for the belief?
Well, it's what they want to do with it, really. You know, I think what we've done is come 6 hours across felt like the longest flight in the world, how long it took, but there's no tougher challenge, I reckon, than coming across here in front of 60,000 fans, hostile environment, get headed with 2.5, 3 minutes to go, and then respond. So they'll gain enormous confidence, I think, out of that victory. And there's been games throughout the year that we've responded like that, and it was another important step forward, I think.
It's elimination final day on Fox. The Giants host the Hawks. It's a mouth-watering clash.
Feels like there's going to be a team from outside the floor that's going to come from this game.
We'll see if we're a better team now than what we were this time last year.
We're ready to go. No tomorrow here.
Newcomb might get 50. Oh, there's no one on the mark. Unattended. What a goal, what a start.
A brain fade of monumental proportions.
3 quick goals from the Hawks.
You know, our season's on the line again. Know what it takes from that sense, but it's a completely different game today.
This is a moment here. They just lost their way, the Giants.
I think for us today, it's all about contest and pressure to start the game. But when we got the ball, take it on.
There you go for the Giants. Good finish, good goal kicking at both ends. And the final here, the eliminator is starting to heat right up. Giants have got free on the bounce, and they're back to 2 goals. It's going back on. And the Hawthorn joy is spreading. It is infectious. NG Stadium, where they've never won before. Jack has 3.
7 straight from 6 shots now by Hawthorn. That's the story of the match right there. 28 points. They deserve to be even further ahead.
This Hawks defence, it's like Fort Knox.
That sums it up. That just sums up the game right there.
Ginnivan, big with the words, big with the actions. That is how you do it. Ginnivan has kicked another. Give me a call, because I'm on fire, says Jack. Hawks out, 7-goal margin. Big tackle from Thomas. They trail by 42 points. It has to start somewhere. Kelly injected in the game. Can they make it 2 in a row? Don't give up on the Giants. The margin is 30 points right now.
He's got to believe. He's got to believe. Kingsley's got to get his players to believe.
Another one for the Giants. Bedford nails it. Here comes the orange tsunami. Back to 18 points. Do not go anywhere. Kelly's on the move, and so are the Giants. That is 5 in a row.
Strong breeze going the end that the Giants are going to.
Oh, here we go. It is all square.
You've got to take your chances in finals. Take your chances.
Himmelberg, how do they get rid of it? Done cold. Pressure. Butler hits it home. They're back out by 7.
What a response.
Elimination day in the AFL, and it's bye-bye to the Giants. Come on, Joel. Roll again. The Hawks push on to Adelaide in one of the great finals. But for Toby and the Giants, their season is done.
Is there a better feeling? Is there a better feeling than winning finals on the road, away?
was a remarkable game. Hawthorn 19-point winners in the end, but it was after a barnstorming comeback from the GWS Giants. Great scenes there, and what a package. But it was Hawthorn with that fourth quarter revival in the end that was pivotal in the end, Joey.
Yeah, it was. They steeled themselves, really, after that the onslaught of the Giants in the third quarter, then to have the breeze in the fourth term. But I thought the Hawks defenders really stood up, and that's what I loved about this team. And we talk about defence wins premierships, and it was proof again today because they just repelled everything, and they were able to take crucial intercept marks. They were able to win contests, and I'm talking about Hardwick and Sicily and Scrimshaw. They did it time and time again in that fourth term when the Giants, we know their style, they were able to get the ball from half back and they wanted to kick it long. They just wanted to win a contest or halve a contest to get out the back, but the Hawks defenders stood up. And I thought they were sensational when they were needed.
Showed a bit of composure too, Hawthorn King.
Oh, they did that first half. I've never seen a team kick a goal like it. It was quite frightening. And they didn't need a lot of inside 50 entries because the composure they had in tight. So he's under enormous pressure there. Both players. One finds the handball and Ginnivan's just happy to live in that environment, happy to take the snap. So from set shots, they kick 7 straight. From outside 40, they kick 5 straight. Wow. That just doesn't happen. That's unheard of. And these guys are on a roll now. They're on a roll. They're really excitable. They love the attention. They love the celebrations. And I think when you get on this sort of roll in game, it becomes infectious. It goes through the group. I know they struggle for the next 30 minutes after this point, but they built such a strong lead, 42 points at one stage. It was just impossible, really, and awesome football to watch.
They take on Adelaide, of course, a Friday night in that semi-final over there at Adelaide Oval. Today's number one, with thanks to Ford Ranger, was Jai Newcomb, who was making a habit of big finals performances. He was enormous, particularly in that first half, Joey.
Yeah, talk about being built for September. This guy absolutely epitomises that. That's now his third straight final where he's been the number one rated player on the ground.
Wow.
Third final in a row. He did it both times last year in this game, particularly in that first half. It was off the charts. He's ended up with the 12 clearances, 17 contested, 32 disposal, but some of his handballs in tight, like the power and strength that he has, but then the deft little touch, both by hand and foot. I keep saying it's underrated, his skill level, because we just think of him as a brute, but everything that he touched had impact. And he had the 8 score involvements as well that set up some play, and he led from the front. He's a bit thin in that midfield around him. You know, Ward was in there and Warple, but he did some heavy lifting, particularly in that first half when Tom Green and Callaghan were also going pretty mad. So it was a huge performance.
The Giants, though, in that third quarter, I mean, they got back into the game. There was more spark around the stoppage in particular, and Josh Kelly was a super sub for them.
Oh, that 13 minutes, you know, late second, early third, it was just, late third, early fourth, I should say, was unreal. They're inside the out game. This is Kelly on Warple. Warple's half asleep, and you know what? That's all you need to be. He had an unbelievable third term, Joey.
It was ridiculous, wasn't it? We didn't know if he had this in him, to be honest. He's really struggled with the last 18 months, but gee, had impact.
So they're inside the outside game, and this is the game now. And if you can't do this, and we'll show some vision later of the Collingwood-Adelaide game, and this is the complete opposite. It's what you allow, what you can put to your competition is everything. So the ability to get the ball to this sort of damaging position immediately is just impossible to defend. So when they are like this, they only won 12 clearances in this period, but they scored 7 times. 5 goals too. They're just ridiculous numbers. So there's damage there. They'll be so disappointed that they're not plying this again next week in a final series. They've had so many problems throughout the year with injury and just lack of continuity, but they can do this. I think they've got some soul searching to do, the Giants. Really head scratcher how they're out of the competition again after having all the talent in the world, really, and they've been there. They've lived in this zone. So what's the next step for them is a big challenge now.
You raised it earlier about, is it the right system? We've spoken a lot about the Bulldogs. Very aggressive, very attacking offensively, but they expose themselves defensively. It's a very similar profile with the Giants. You know, they love playing in shootouts and they kick 100 points, they win, but you just wonder whether they just need to find a little bit more balance in their game because it's failed the test in finals now for the last few seasons.
And in the end, today summed up their whole season. They've been so inconsistent across the whole campaign, and then today, within 4 quarters, we saw the best of them and we saw the worst of them again today. So it summed up their whole year. And shattering news for Darcy Jones, who has a suspected ACL injury, which could wipe him out for up to a year. There were tears on the bench. You could see the look on the coach's face, Adam Kingsley, when he was told the news. He looked absolutely devastated. So we're thinking of him. At this stage, the club thinking that is an ACL. We'll go back to Friday night. It was Geelong, your saying they're now the premiership favourite, Joey. Too good for the Brisbane Lions, who, again, injuries took a significant toll on the Lions, but it was the Cats' defence, Kingy. I feel like it's been this case for two decades.
Defence in the forward half of the ground. So we know what Brisbane want to do. They want to pick corridor. They want to play aggressive. We've talked about don't get zorked. So there's the first one of the day. Cut it off. Head them off at the pass. So if they want to play aggressive, you've got to make them bleed. So if they want to bite off the extreme or the arrogant or the brave, then you've got to be able to turn them around. And they did this. It was just terrific. You know, the forward half game, Brisbane don't really bleed like this. You know, intercept, they were onto it, just cutting off the switches. And as soon as they denied them that easy 20-metre lateral sort of corridor kick, then it was game on. And they just went to work. As we said, they hunted after the key playmakers of the Lions. And then the role players, you think they're role players for the Cats, but they just did it perfectly. Those wide entries didn't give Brisbane another look. Look at this. That is just inspirational. That sort of stuff. I just love watching it. So this is planning. This is okay. This is what we need to take off the opposition. In a final, can we do it? 100% we can. This is why we marvel at this group in finals, because they're ready. They don't let the opposition's best beat them.
And they took out one of the Lions' main men in Hugh McCluggage. You mentioned it off the top. King with O'Sheen Mullen kept him to 14 possessions, one of his quietest games, there you go, in a couple of years since 2023. So unafraid to play that tag on one of the main guys. You hear so many coaches and teams say, we want to play our system, or we want to play our way, we want to get the game on our terms, where the Cats just try and cut the head off the snake.
This is the art of coaching. You can play your system and still minimise the opposition's strengths and take it away from them. That's why Chris Scott is the best coach in the league. It was interesting to see he'd only been tagged 2 or 3 times this year, McCluggage, and had struggled when he'd been sat on. So it was a great ploy and it had a huge impact on the game.
The thing that's the hardest to beat with Geelong is the way they move the ball. Now, we talked about it on our first crack during the week, the preview. If you can picture a river and a rock in the middle of it, you've got to choose going around one way or the other. This is how they get their outnumbered. See the redundant lines on the left of screen there? They kick it over the top and already they've got at least +1. And then they work. So they're already goal side and then they charge. All of a sudden now you've got a 3-on-1. A 4-on-1 if you don't want to add Manor at the top. And then you get Holmes with that driving 60-metre dart that he's got. But they just are predictable. It's long, wide, quick. So you can just see what's happening. Look at Smith. This is what we're talking about when you know that you're going wide down the line. You're not coming back into the corridor. So don't commit to the corridor. Get out wide and get there and create an outnumber. Dangerfield knows what's happening. Smith knows what's happening. And you know what? Even if you get it wrong, you're going to have numbers turn up. The Lions are guarding in board. They're guarding corridor because every other team they've played for the year want to bring it back through corridor. So you've got to change your plans for 1 week. Hard to do when they've been executing this plan for the best part of 3 or 4 years. So full credit to the way they do it. They only coughed up 20 points on turnover, bringing the ball out of their back half. So this is why they are hard to beat. They do not beat themselves.
Great vision, Kingy. Ollie Dempsey, still a trump card for the Cats.
Oh, he was enormous in this game, one of the best players on the ground. And speak about coaching, Kingy and either they didn't scout what Ollie Dempsey has been doing all year long, or the players they had playing the roles couldn't execute it, because he's a wingman. We know this is what he does. He relies on those high half forwards to help get up in transition. Levi Ashcroft, a youngster, he just gets caught ball watching, and this was early in the game, and he was able to exploit the Brisbane wingman and take advantage. And a couple of times early, he was able to kick the ball in to Jeremy Cameron. Here he is again. Ashcroft just sort of get caught in no man's land, peels out goal side, set up another opportunity. So when you look at it, he's had an equal PB 3 goals. He's been 2 off his PB disposals with 25. He's had 27 before, and he's had 9 score involvements. And here, this is what he does. We've seen it all year long. And not one Brisbane player was aware of it or able to contain it, and he just did this all night long. So they'll be disappointed they weren't able to execute a play that has become so pivotal to the way they want to play. You talk about the river line king. He's normally the off-ball guy that can run, and this sometimes is hard work. Look at this. It's exactly what you're talking about. Ball's coming down one wing. He just puts the head down, and he ran 150 metres. That started even further back than his footsteps there to kick this incredible goal. So it was a brilliant performance from the youngster.
How many goals has he kicked from the goal square this year?
Nearly all.
11 of his 31.
Is it? You know it. Yeah, been amazing. That's going to be fascinating to watch in the preliminary final, that tactical battle. In particular, I think the Lions had 8 players under the age of 22, so they were quite young. But what did you make of their efforts Friday night?
Just some really poor efforts. And well, let's do a Brisbane review, because I've got no doubt Chris Fagan would show this. So Holmes is a top liner in our competition. If you disrespect him, if you give him a metre, it becomes 3, it becomes 5. Just watch Zach Bailey, and you tell me whether this is good enough. You tell me whether Chris Fagan can be happy with this. It gets worse for Zach because he's just going to watch him go all the way. And that is substandard for a player of that calibre. And we wrap him up when he's there to be wrapped up. Same again here. What are you doing? Are you going to cover one? You going with them? And they just walk. They just meandered. And then you watch they follow up and go again. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about De Koning. He's on Darcy Fort. Darcy Fort's right next to him. He's in the ruck. He's your man. He's your man, Darcy. What are you doing? Not really keen to get back, not really keen to push someone to a handover position to get someone to compete. You don't necessarily have to do it yourself. You can get help. And then you've got the tag. I mean, this is the ultimate win, isn't it? When you're tagging someone that doesn't want to be tagged. He doesn't want to defend you, and you push forward and you kick a goal on him. That's utopia in terms of your coaching planning, to have your tagger hitting the scoreboard against the nominal star of a competition. So I think the Lions would be really disappointed with the effort of some of their top liners, just not engaging in the fight. And it was all too hard for them and too quickly.
We'll try and butter up in the Q Clash, a final against Gold Coast on Saturday night. Right, it's time for a short break. But first, let's welcome Bernie Vince from PointsBet. Bernie, what's your first crack?
Thanks, guys. My first crack is Triple Treat for Charlie. By Triple Treat, I mean a box trifecta of the top 3 place getters in this year's Brownlow. I want to start with Nick Dacos. Well, he writes his own place in the top 3. Known vote getter, 38 votes last year, and Collingwood dominated the first 2/3 of this season. That's locked him into the top 3. Second player is Noah Anderson. 15 wins for the Suns this year and dominated in all those wins. Kicked a lot of late goals in those close games too, which will lock him in for 3 votes in front of the umpires. Third player, Jordan Dawson, 18 wins for the Crows this year, locking in the minor premiership. And Adelaide aren't a high possession team, so you look at Jordan Dawson, you go, well, he's averaged under 24, a lot less than some of these other midfielders. But he's kicked a lot of goals, the most goals, in fact, in the top 5 of the market for the Brownlow. So I'm locking him into my top 3 also. Now, you might ask me why I haven't included Bailey Smith in this top 3. Well, he's missed 3 games, and I think Max Holmes and Jeremy Cameron might take a few votes off him. Jeremy Cameron getting right up the ground, high possessions and goals means the umpires will look after him. Here at PointsBet, we'll give you $6.50 if you agree with my top 3. I think that's great value. You can find all these odds plus a whole heap more on the PointsBet app. Have a great week.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
The message is keep putting yourself in that position. Keep putting you in a position where you can fail on the big stage and be incredibly disappointed, but if you're not there, you'll never feel it. And so we've got to just work our backsides off over the summer again to get back into finals and put ourselves in a position where, who knows, we may lose next year and be disappointed again. But that's where we need to get to.
To have a big lead and then to give it up and then to get back in front and to show the resilience that we did. That was a great thing. I'm really proud of all the lads and how they went about it. You know, if there was a lot of doubt for different moments and we couldn't get the game on our terms, but I think it took every player today.
I thought Geelong's pressure and intensity, reaction time, they just looked sharper than us tonight. And it showed in and around the contest. It showed in its stoppages. It showed in one-on-one contests around the ground. They were really ready tonight to go. I thought we were, but they were much better than us.
I think in a game where you feel in the box that most things are going okay, but you can't get a meaningful enough gap on the scoreboard, they're generally the most concerning ones, especially when you have such a high respect for what the opposition can do. And obviously a couple of the Rayner goals changed things a little bit. And so in that context, like given that we're already thinking the game's going well, but we're not as far ahead as we would like to be, just the composure to hang in there and make sure that we continued playing the game.
We come into this game the best defence in the competition. No one really talked about that. We're pretty happy to put it on the whiteboard, make sure everyone saw it. We kept the best offence in the competition over 24 rounds to 55 points. That's not just one person, but Darcy was a big part of that.
3 quarters won't get it done in finals footy. I think we knew that coming in. It's the ability to do it. We were beaten tonight by a side that played better than we did.
Yeah, the Collingwood coach, Craig McRae, certainly a happy man. It was the Pies by 24 points over the Crows on Thursday night. Gingy, the Pies' use by hand, particularly inside, was crucial.
Yeah, this is how they get you. They get you with their corridor handball, and if you're not ready for it and you can't clamp it, then they get through and they pierce at speed. Just have a look at how organised they are. They don't have to hit multiple, they don't have to hit one or two. Bang, and gone through corridor. And it's Daicos on that occasion. Look at them set up. They want to own the outside and they want to own corridor straight away. And it's so aggressive, it's really difficult for the back six of the Crows to stay intact. When they win that back and cause a neutral ball, and then they go again. I thought the speed of Collingwood to be able to get from inside to out was significant. McCreery, De Goey, Daicos, we talk a lot about those guys, but this was an Adelaide ball. So Adelaide couldn't do it. The pressure from Collingwood was immediate and it was intense. Same ball here from Collingwood, they find a way out. That was the gap in the game. They weren't tough enough, the Crows, and they weren't ready to handle the heat that Collingwood were putting to them. And I think that Collingwood were ready for it. They know what finals are about. They embraced it. They wanted to come their way. And that's when their playmakers stood tall. Here, same thing again. That's a Crows ball. They're out and gone. But because of the heat and its immediacy, they're done. De Goey doesn't quite get that one. Stays in the fight. Ball spills. Now this is Collingwood's turn. Speed on ball, inside to out. Thank you, mother of the rabbits, as Rex used to say. So that's it in its simplest form, is that taking the game from inside to out, Collingwood big tick, Adelaide couldn't handle it.
It was a hot contest, and Nick Daicos at times was absolutely exquisite.
He was unbelievable. He's, I just wonder what the planning was, because they often had a tag or a match-up at the stoppage, but it was immediately after the stoppage. So it was almost first receive, or it was a 2-second delay. The Crows mids, they couldn't stay contacted with Nick. So it's coming on this occasion. So he sort of got him, and then they leave him, and then once you lose control of Nick, you're in real trouble. And people say, oh, you can't stay connected all the time, but this is what happens if you don't. You just get beaten by the star factor player, being able to only have 24 touches, but 8 score involvements. And what he did with his field kicking was unbelievable. We were there, Joey. It was just a different game he was playing.
Yeah, it was. He had every kick in the kit bag, and he pulled it out. His left foot, right foot, inside, outside, and this is the problem about Nick Daicos. And why I was surprised they probably didn't put more attention on him. We knew that their midfield's a little bit thin, Adelaide, so, like some other teams, like Geelong would do, take away the opposition's best player. They didn't do that at all.
So look at that. Look at him contorting to take that clean, ready for the traffic, ready for the physical punishment that may come, that didn't come. I think Adelaide would be really disappointed with their work around contests in particular. Everyone says, oh, their shape, but just their effort, their application to denying Collingwood an easy exit.
It's great vision. He uses the outside of his boot almost better than anyone else in the competition. But have they brought back the torp as well?
Well, it looked like it. It looked like they had the torpedo licence. So the old traditionalists would like this, because on a number of occasions they went for the torp, which you don't really see, and it just did enough. So that Schultz torp just got over the back of an Adelaide defence at a ring. Look at this one from Maynard. The ability to get over the back of a team defence, it worked on that occasion. And then this one was the best of them all, again from Lachie Schultz. So I still think it's the most underutilised kick in footy, the torpedo to try and clear these zoning defenders and the way it goes. And it looked like the Pies were talking about, Craig McRae said they were going to take risks, and it looked like they had a licence just to go for it.
You mentioned Braden Maynard on the defensive, and he had some massive moments, King.
Oh, they hunted the tackle. I mean, their pressure was not. Look at this. Knowing when to go, and then bang. Arriving, bang, 2 in a row. I mean, that just lifts the whole team. Their tackle pressure, look, their tackle numbers weren't huge, 65, but they were brutal. They were just putting players in the scope and saying, we're coming quickly. And I think their pressure was over 212 when they got to that 7-goal run, but it was 194 for the whole night. If they bring that, it doesn't really matter who they play, they're in the game. And then you're relying on your star factor players to take control at some time. But the general thrust of what they do as a group is just bring pressure. Keep it simple.
And then the coaching element to it all, because last time they played, they had troubles with their efficiency inside 50. We thought, what adjustments are they going to make? Well, Craig McRae did have an adjustment. It was still side bottom, playing at half forward. He'd only spent just under 5% of the time this season playing as a forward. In the first 3 quarters tonight, it was on the game Thursday, it was over 40% as a forward, and it was his best game since round 13. He's one of the best rated players on the ground. There are the numbers, and to bob up with 3 goals, which he hasn't kicked since 2018, midway through 2018, the last time he did that, and the crucial ones early, throughout that third quarter that broke the game open. It was excellent because it's now the last 2 weeks he hasn't gone into a centre bounce. He was a centre bounce player early in the season.
Oh, yeah.
Fourth ranked at Collingwood. The last 2 weeks, they've skipped that plan and they've got a different role for him, and it had real impact.
It's a surprise move. What did you make of the Crows?
Well, similar to Kingy's point, I just thought they didn't challenge Collingwood when they did have the opportunity with ball in hand to be able to move the footy. So there were times where they win this ball. They've got numbers, to bring the ball inside, get to the open side. They just played two straight line. It was the pressure, the perceived pressure of what they thought was coming, that they just kept going straight down the line and they didn't challenge Collingwood. Look there, if he looks inboard, they've got all these players that they can fan and spread and get to the open side, bring the forwards into play. But they were only looking too narrow. They kept playing skinny side. Even again there, that's one kick into the corridor. You got a player out open side of the ground, but that's not what they were trying to do. And Collingwood were able to pick it off. No wonder they took nearly 30 intercept marks when that's the way that Adelaide presented. They only had 73 handballs at three-quarter time, Adelaide. That was their lowest for the year. So there again, use your hands, use your numbers and challenge. But instead, they just kept kicking it back. So I think they'll be looking at that and they need to challenge the Hawks more if they want to win this game next week.
Did they miss Isaac Rankin King?
Well, the old saying is don't die with the music in you. OK, so I know he's a guy that can bring some magic. They need to play with some magic. They need to bring in Rochelle as an absolute gamble, and they need Dawson to get more aggressive, because without Isaac, they didn't have anyone that challenged at forward 50 stoppages. They really didn't. They didn't have anyone charging through at speed, no creativity with the hitting in terms of the ruck work. So they had 11 forward 50 stoppages for no score. They've been averaging 15 points a game from forward 50 stoppages with Isaac, 1 point and then 0 in the last 2 weeks. So they need someone to take some risks. Don't die with the music in you. Don't just whimper your way out of this final series without firing a shot.
Been a big story, and he's been a big absence, no doubt about that. Right, my favourite show is a midweek tackle team. It's coming up twice this week on Tuesday and Wednesday night, 7:30. Don't miss it.
It raises the natural question, though, doesn't it? Is there a conflict of interest there?
Sauce actually controls the money. He's got it all on whiteboards, and suddenly his son is front and centre. And he's going to come over the top of people who've been there on more money. It's not Jack's fault, I get it. But I would avoid this situation if I was St Kilda.
Massive conflict, but if I'm St Kilda, I don't care. I'm saying, you know what, we want to get better. There might be some players who might whinge. Let's give Cal Wilkie another $150,000 to shut him up, because he's one of the very few players who deserves that money.
Welcome back to the first crack. Now on Friday night, Joey, one of the biggest talking points was the umpiring controversy and a howler of a free kick in particular, Mark O'Connor on Cameron Rayner, which the AFL's conceded was a big mistake.
Yeah, and I think we all agree that shouldn't have been paid a free kick, particularly when the ball was down the other end of the field. Cam Rayner exaggerated the contact. We understand that. And then there was the bit of play afterwards where then he gets the secondary kick. But it's interesting when we take a look in a minute at the vision and what led up to this incident and whether there'd been something brewing, because we're able to take a look at the behind the goals vision before this moment. And it was fascinating that after a goal was kicked the other end of the ground, Cam Rayner clearly had a strong conversation with the umpire, particularly about what was happening with Mark O'Connor. I think Mark O'Connor didn't like that they were having a conversation about what he was doing. He's going over saying, hey, leave me alone. I'm playing within the rules. I'm not doing it just because it's annoying you.
Stop sooking.
There's nothing illegal. But clearly the umpire there is saying to them, OK, I'm watching. My eyes are going to be on you guys, so I'm going to keep close attention.
That's an horrific look, him being in the face of the umpire like that, Cam Rayner. That's disgraceful. He should be sanctioned for that alone. We do not want players...
disgraceful about it?
We do not want players getting in the face of the umpire.
So then look at this play's going on down the other end of the field. You can see the umpire. He's actually staring at the players. He's just watching those two in particular when the ball's down the other end of the field. So he was waiting for something. And as soon as he saw the slightest bit of contact and Rayner fell, he's paid the free kick. So interesting.
That's strong. You think it's disgraceful?
100%. We're setting the standard for codes for competitions across the land. The last thing local football needs are players walking up to the umpire's face like this. That is intimidatory behaviour that is unacceptable at AFL. Look at him. He's almost bumping him off his line.
What do you think he's saying there?
I don't care what he's saying. Get out of the way.
There's no doubt he's complaining about Mark O'Connor.
It's irrelevant what he's saying. He's in the face of the umpire, almost pushing him off his walking line to make a point. Irrelevant what the point is, that That needs to be stamped out immediately.
But it was from a Cameron Rayner perspective, it was effective.
Yeah.
He got the double goal, right?
So you reckon the end justifies the means?
Well,
if we start down that path, we'll never clamp.
How would Cameron Rayner feel about all this today? Would he be embarrassed? Would he think it worked? How do you think?
Not one person's talked about that. He wouldn't care. It's got 2 goals, but that's not the point. The point is, we've got as a governing body, we have to stamp that out. We're in a really hot competition right now where finals football's everywhere across the local leagues. You can't have that at AFL level because it'll just permeate through. It really will. That's no good. Do you agree or not?
I agree with you, Kingy.
He didn't sound like it.
I just like to wind you up sometimes. Right. It was very strong. Well, it clearly worked, but perhaps that's another memo from Greg Swan and his crew. We finished late, but you've been outstanding, Kingy, and you have been fantastic, Lee Montagna. Have a great September. Have a happy Father's Day, and we'll see you next on First Crack on Fox Footy. Good night.